Welcome to another episode of The Velvet Hammer.
And here we go.
All right, I thought today that we would talk about how many Mo's are in you, how many Karens are in me, how many Marks are in you, the different aspects of our personality.
Archetypes. That is what I've been taught recently.
Yes.
They are.
Yes.
As our archetypes.
Do you want to go first? Why don't you go first?
No, you go first.
Okay, well.
Let me hear yours.
So, you hear, especially in the office, we've been talking about you don't celebrate enough and this and that.
Yeah.
And people also kind of talk about, oh, well, I'm an introvert or I'm an extrovert, right? Yeah. Which is such a oversimplification of who we are. I mean, all these labels, or we take these personality tests and, I'm strategic, I'm this, I'm that, or I'm not.
And that's supposed to define you too.
Those are supposed to define us. But what I've come to see is that we all have different people in us, personas for different occasions. And I thought we would start talking about it. So I'm going to tell you a story.
Tell me a story.
So I was a married person at one time in my life.
You
Shocker.
married? No.
If you can even imagine.
I can not imagine.
I was. And I was a good little wife. I had a very...
What? Did you just say good little wife?
I had a very dominant spouse, and I was the one that kept the peace. So I was. I mean, if you want to talk about a whole totally different person, like you would not have recognized me. But I digress. So I remember we were at a dinner. It was a large dinner. It was mainly, his friends were my friends. Like I just kind of adopt all of his friends. When you're married, you kind of, So there was probably, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 couples around a table, right? Yeah. And I'd known most of them for a couple of years. Yeah. Some better than others. And midway through the meal, somebody said something. And one of the people, I still remember his name, David Hughes.
Okay.
He was Hawaiian, and he had a shirt career with the Seahawks, I think. This is way back. And he said, out of the blue, he said, "You're a lawyer?" He was literally stunned because I didn't act like a lawyer. I just act like a sweet little person. And so that got me thinking this morning, when you ruminate about weird stuff that pops into your head, about the different aspects of a personality.
Okay, so what aspect of the personality was that?
Well, that was one that I've put away. That was my Martha Stewart phase of life, which I just gave after I was married. I never looked at Martha Stewart again.
Okay.
But
can I ask some questions about Martha Stewart Karen?
Well, let me tell you about my favorite one was before I got married.
Okay.
It was Disco Karen.
Okay, Disco Karen.
Okay, which was a completely different person than Martha Stewart Karen. I used to say that I was a chameleon because I could be so many different things to so many different people. I still have that ability.
Okay.
And I don't even know why that is. What is that about a person that you can do that? But in the office, I am serious Karen.
Serious Karen?
I am. I'm pretty intense.
Yes.
And I just kind of work a lot.
I know.
Yeah.
Inaccessible. You just sit in your office.
People, that's not true. I walk around.
Sometimes.
But I can be daunting. And I don't even see that about myself.
Yes.
Yeah. So these are some of the little
Tell
things.
me more.
What else?
Well, what I want to know is how did Disco Karen become Martha Stewart Karen?
Well, that was called the horrible institution of marriage.
Okay, the institution of marriage.
But I was also, in my very early 20s, and I probably, I'm glad that I got married because I had 3 children that I love. But in retrospect, why do we get married? I mean, this is going to take us on a whole nother topic. Why do we make the decisions that we do?
I just read an article that was fantastic about the institution of marriage. Is that the primary driving force of the institution of marriage was economics, was that people needed to be provided for. And then that dynamic starts to radically change when women find empowerment through employment and success. And then that's why women are like, I don't really need to get married. I mean, in a lot of ways, they're like, why do I need to get married? Because, the incentives are not there. The external incentives are not there. My question is, did Disco Karen become Martha Stewart Karen because she wanted a guy to take care of her?
And no, that
Then
was
why?
completely not it. I think it's more complicated than
Okay,
that.
then what is that?
I mean, I don't want to have that conversation here.
Okay, that's not fair. We talk about, okay, that's
Okay.
not fair, Mike. She says,
Okay,
we're going to talk
this
about
is so
the-
off topic. We're
No,
supposed to talk about the people inside of us.
That's the inside of you. I'm
I will
asking-
tell you. Okay, I will tell you. I've never ever exactly figured out exactly 100% why, but I have many suspicions.
okay, let's hear
Okay,
them.
number one, I do think that there was a traditional, there were traditional bones in my body about like, I guess that's what you're supposed to do when you reach a certain age.
Yeah.
Okay,
And, I was in love. He was in love.
okay, love, tradition.
So love. So,
And young. I mean, you were
Young.
You said
Young.
you were pretty. That's 6 years younger than when I got married. So
Youthful energy,
and
tradition.
and he was very traditional, which was always, I wasn't really sure about that, but I was willing to do that. And that's the question I've never really been sure about, because I am not traditional in so many other ways. I think it was because of my life experience up to then. And my life experience, so this was in the early 80s, as you know, in the 80s, early 80s, mid 80s. AIDS had just been. AIDS was a raging epidemic. And like you didn't, I think there was safety in marriage from that.
Okay, that's interesting. Culture.
I think that
perceived safety, not real safety.
perceived safety.
That's right, Mike.
I mean, I don't know exactly
No,
why, but
you've identified some.
these are some of the
qualities.
reasons. I think that probably in the back of my head, I thought, well, they always say that women marry for biology. Like, okay, well, would I have children? Okay, well, with this person. And I guess, that's another issue.
Can I put out a potential suggestion?
Yeah.
How about just wanting to be with somebody, okay, who sees you for who you are, and being with.
Don't know that he ever saw me for who I was.
Well, I'm not saying. I'm saying that maybe that was ultimately the outcome, understanding, but at the first instant, when you go into a relationship and say, "I want to be with you for the rest of my life," what you're doing is saying that I want to be your partner in life, and I want you to see me for who I am, and you want them to see you for who you are.
I was not that evolved.
Okay.
And and what I remember is that when we went and got married, we had the marriage ceremony.
Yeah.
As soon as it was over, I wanted to go back to my parents' home. I did not want to go.
You didn't want to hang out with them?
I remember feeling like that's when I freaked out. Like, he freaked out before we got married. Like, not freaked out, but he was a little nervous beforehand. I was never nervous until right when I got married. Then I was like, oh crap.
What did I do?
I'm here. And I wanted to be there, but
Yeah.
I also kind of wanted to like go back to my mommy's and daddy's house. It was a weird thing. I told him about it.
So it wasn't Romeo, wherefore art thou, Romeo?
Well,
there wasn't the romance.
No, there was Romeo.
Okay.
That's why I'm saying, like, this is weird. I told you were going to take us completely off topic.
I didn't. We were talking about the personality of Disco Karen turning into Martha Stewart Karen.
Yes.
And what you've described to me, tell me if I'm wrong, is that there are a variety of external factors, culture, times, and wanting to do what you believed was correct in the context of where you were in your life that drove you towards this particular direction, plus romance. And I think that's that.
I also had an unhealthy ability to make myself into what I thought the other person wanted.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Don't you think, though, to get back on topic a little
You've
bit.
had a very successful marriage.
Yeah. Well, it hasn't been easy, I'd say that. It's both for her and for me.
Yeah.
But I think that
you
that's
guys have been married for what, 30 years?
30 years.
Yeah.
Well, it'll be 30 years in August.
You better do something nice.
We're going to Amsterdam.
Oh, nice.
But to get back on topic, don't you think that your other personalities come out at times when they're needed?
Yes.
When it's, like you said, after your wedding, you sort of regressed into what you were in a younger person. Where when you're in trial against, a firm that's working for a giant corporation, you're going to turn into someone else
Yeah.
who's got some armor and might be a little bit more forceful than another part of yourself.
Yeah. I have always been a very good advocate for others and not for myself. That's something that's very common. But, trial Karen is completely her own being. That's the performative part. I've always said, the most related people that I've talked to are like actors. Yeah. And it's not that I'm acting, but we are literally up there giving a performance of life.
Well, it is a performance.
Yeah.
Speaking in front of a jury is very much a performance, I think. And that's one of the reasons why, when you see younger attorneys, they're not often ready for that because they were kind of taught to be that prototypical lawyer. Yeah. And they need to work into their persona.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and normally, see how pleasant I am?
You're very
Well,
pleasant.
I took a deposition last week of an expert. It lasted 21 minutes.
And it wasn't pleasant.
Can you?
I was horrible the whole time.
As you talk about that, can you quickly explain the difference between deposing an expert and a layperson?
Yeah, like this guy had been hired about 2,000 times, and he was a professional witness. And normally, when most people take expert depositions, they take hours. And I've gotten into the point where I don't want to take more than an hour, so it's kind of almost like a goal to see how quick I can take it. I don't ask them anything about their background because they gave me a CV, and all I have to do is look at one of the other 1,000 transcripts to see what their background is. I don't need to know what your school was and this or that. I can ask that 3 questions and shut it down. But I want to get right there to and their report. They gave me a report. I don't need to go over anything that they said because it's all written down there. They're going to have to stick to that. I want to do a couple other things, but that is more Ruthless Karen.
Yeah.
And I know you have a Ruthless Mo, so let's segue.
Segue to me?
Yeah.
Okay.
I do want to say for Ruthless Karen that it can become a shock when you see it.
Yeah.
If you're not used to it.
Oh.
Because I'm so normally sweet and kind.
Yeah.
And how do clients react to that?
Oh, they love that. I mean, that's what they want.
Yeah. Yeah.
They don't want me to just be sweet.
Yeah. And when you're all nice when they come in, they're like,
Yeah.
how's this going to work?
How is this going to work?
And then all of a sudden,
I wish you'd been on camera because that was.
Wait a minute. By the way, I have a picture I'm going to give you to put, if you can, in the podcast.
Okay.
Of her making that face. I have it, Mike. I have one in my phone. Okay. I've saved it because it's her going. I love it
because that's how I feel.
Yeah, I'm gonna send it to you, Mike.
Okay.
All right. So, to lead up to this, I was thinking about this morning.
Yeah.
I was thinking, what is my favorite Mo to have with me? And it is Ruthless Mo. I don't like Ruthless Mo as much as I like other parts of Mo, but I like Ruthless Mo when I turn him loose. And he calls it woof. He goes woof.
Woof.
As I started woofing back, that's our entire sentence to each other. Like, I did this, and this, and this, and then the response is woof, because it's an attack dog. So I love that. You have to do that.
Yes.
And you don't always see people doing that because it takes an extra. There's extra involved when you're ruthless.
Well, you have to turn it on.
And you cannot worry about the other side liking you or not.
I don't care if they like me or not.
So as a lead into this, most of you watching him just think he is the nicest, most personable guy. Okay. So I was talking to this defense attorney. I said, what do you think about Mo? And he said, well, I don't think he's very collegial. And he said, and you know, I think that people should be more collegial, so I'm not really impressed with him. You know, the jury's out. Okay, Ruthless Mo.
Well, what do you want to know?
I want you to tell them what you told this guy's associate. Do it just like you did it. Do the whole face, do the whole thing.
I said to him,
Wait, where were you?
I was in a courtroom.
And what were you doing?
I just won significant victory.
Okay, and what did you tell him?
I looked him in I looked him in the eye, and I said, "You do not want to see me in this courtroom. I will annihilate you. I will humiliate your client. You need to go talk to your client, and you need to tell them that. Do you understand me?" And I saw the blood leave his face, and he turned white.
This is my favorite part of Mo. This is so good. I mean, I was dying when he told me this because it was so good.
I think that's what I said. But I meant it because that's how I felt. You know, yes, it was necessary to be that guy at that point. It was absolutely necessary. And sometimes you have to just be ruthless because...
What does it feel when you're ruthless? Tell me what you feel like when you're ruthless.
I feel physically powerful. I feel as though I'm like grounded. I feel calm. I see things clearly. I see people's vulnerabilities. They become almost enhanced. And I see their weaknesses, even though they suggest they have power. And I just drain the power from them.
How do you drain it?
Through my words, through my presence, my physical presence, my cadence, how I speak, and you know how I walk up to them, how I stand near them, how I look at them. It is like animal qualities that I have developed over years.
What do you think about this, Mike? Did you know that he had this in him?
No, not until recently. That's for sure. I mean, you know, I didn't really know him before he was hired here at all, and so I didn't, and you know, right off, he wasn't right into a case that I was part of or that I knew anything about. So it's only recently, and also on this podcast.
So imagine that you got Ruthless Mo, right? Like that. So the way that it works out in me is I am not physical. I do not have his voice. What I do is I will say stuff like, you have no case.
See, but they call you the Velvet Hammer for a reason. You're more subtle.
Well, there's a point to my words.
Yeah.
And, you know, and I'll mock them, which can be very irritating.
Yes.
But yes, we do it very differently.
Yes.
Together, it's pretty inescapable.
Well, yeah, that's what I was going to say. And that's one of the things about this firm that I like is that you often have attorneys that are complimenting each other when they go to trial, and that can make a big difference. And it also helps a lot for the younger attorneys to be able to experience that a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So let's not scare anybody else with Ruthless Mo.
Yeah.
Tell us about some other Mo's.
Oh, other ones are Little Mo.
Okay, we already talked about Little Mo earlier.
Little Mo.
Look at. See, you went right to
and
Little Mo.
There's Poet Mo.
Well, we've heard
talked
of
about that a lot.
There is Shadowlight Mo.
What is Shadowlight Mo?
Shadowlight Mo is the Mo that lives between the light and the dark. He is almost in a space where he is sort of trying to figure out his life. You know, he's a little bit ambiguous. He is spiritually oriented. Then there is Wise Mo, who brings wisdom to the other Mo's and helps organize them.
Who's Basketball Mo?
Basketball Mo is Rascal Mo.
Huh?
Yeah, Rascal Mo. Rascal Mo, he's just a rascal. He just likes to run around and be a little rascal on the basketball court and play. And then there's Divine Mo, which is...
Mo has thought about this way more than we have.
Well, the archetypes that I've developed have been developing throughout my life to manage my lived experience.
Yeah.
You know, and so it's just like been helpful to live life through, because, you know, otherwise you don't know why you're acting the way you're acting. I don't know. I mean, you know, sometimes you're behaving a particular way, but you're really behaving a particular way because you're unconscious about a lived experience. And when you start to realize a lived experience, you know, a bad relationship or, you know, trauma or any of that, you start to realize what part of me is really behaving right now. And then I think for me, it was super helpful to try to organize them into distinct archetypes so that I knew what I was dealing with. And sometimes I have trouble managing them.
Well, I mean,
I will admit.
But I mean, you know, again, you know, we have a lot of differences because I have many of us have trauma, and then there's trauma, like the bombs are falling.
Yes.
You're growing up in a war-torn country.
Yes.
You can hear the bombs. You know, there's bad things that are happening to you throughout your childhood. So you have a trauma response that is a severe trauma response, and these different modes are helping you live.
Oh yeah, they help me make good decisions.
Yeah.
But they also have made me a successful lawyer.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I think they have, but I think that where I'm comfortable is talking about them to people at work. You know, that's important because at the end of the day, I need to feel safe.
Yeah.
With the people I'm working with.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that physical safety, Mike. I mean like safety.
Yeah.
You know?
Vulnerability.
Yeah. And so that I know that I'm with people who know me.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. I mean, how many archetypes do you have that you've identified? A couple.
Well, I'm not as thoughtful as you are. I'm not as self-aware.
I disagree with that, maybe.
So much of me is internal.
That you just haven't externalized.
Yeah, like I
see.
can't even tell you like what was, you know, I knew back then because I went through therapy of like, you know, how did I get into this situation? Yeah. And a lot of it is like, what are you attracted to and why? Like the mystery of that. And it typically involves your parents.
Yeah.
And my mother, you know, as I've told you before, she was, you know, very manic bipolar. She was a manic bipolar with no down. There's such a thing.
Down.
No, there was never depression. It was just manic. High and higher.
And so, but then, so like, did you have an archetype that helped manage that relationship?
Well, that's why I'm compartmentalized.
Okay. And so like you would compartmentalize different aspects, archetypes, like younger Karen, little Karen, or?
Well, when you have, you know, for me, it was more simple, I think, and not as, I don't know. I'm still in trying to figure some of this stuff out, and some of it I don't want to figure out.
I understand.
But what you're trying to do is protect yourself, right? Yeah. And you want more certainty or more stability, and so you figure stuff out. But I mean, I got a mouth on me for a reason. And I'm fast for a reason because I needed to engage with that.
Okay.
You know?
Okay.
So that's part of me is just
that's
an
archetype
experience, right?
But that's an archetype that you're describing.
Yeah.
That you had to like pace yourself to manage that relationship and be in that relationship.
Yeah, the pace was just like full steam ahead.
I mean, Little Mo was the person that got love.
Yeah.
Ruthless Mo doesn't get love.
Yeah.
You know?
But Ruthless Mo doesn't need it.
Yeah, I was going to say he doesn't want it.
He doesn't want it, right? Yeah, that's right.
He's rejected it.
Yeah. And so I always think that, like, I don't know. I mean, I think it would be an interesting exercise to sit down and actually, like, imagine there's a conference room.
Yeah. Well,
and all the sides of you've invited.
Yeah.
And you would say, like, who's who? And then put them at the table.
Well, you've known me for a year.
Yeah.
Haven't you formed impressions? How many Karens are there?
I have identified at a minimum 4 archetypes.
Yeah, I was going to say 4. At least.
What are
I was
they?
going to say 4 at least.
Yeah, 4 at least. One is the maternal archetype.
I definitely
You have
that.
one of the strongest maternal archetypes
I do.
I have seen. The other one is like beyond ruthless.
Yeah.
Almost like a savage, like a dangerous beast. Is that, that?
Did you just say yeah? Like
I did.
Yeah. Like it's savage. Like I've identified that archetype.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not.
It's not a bad thing.
Savage is a tough word to use.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
But, can I just defend a word real quick?
Go ahead.
Okay, savage, I think is not a bad word. I think it's an incredible positive way to describe the fact that your ruthlessness is so unpredictable that it's almost savage, and it's like it's an incredible strength. It terrifies people. So I think it's a positive word, but I'm willing to give it up.
I just feel that savage brings forth the idea that it's uncontrolled, and it's not. That's my thing, is that it's a very controlled, powerful position. I don't know what I would use necessarily to describe it, but when it's turned on, it's scary.
Yeah.
Well, because I think what I do is I'm very calculated and fast. So it seems like I haven't thought it through. But one of my things about me, if you know me, is how fast I process.
Yes.
So I always think.
Yes.
Very rarely, you should think before you speak. That I only hear that when I'm like, everything's off. Like I'm not on. Like I'm just being lazy with my kids and I say something stupid. Because otherwise, when I'm in this arena, I'm not going to say something without having thought it through. I just think it through quick. And what I want to know is, I'm going to have identified your weaknesses, and I'm normally going to just go right at it.
Yes.
Kind of like you, but in a totally different way.
Yeah. The other thing is your divine archetype. You are incredibly have divine wisdom. You have a higher consciousness wisdom that.
How many was that? 3?
That's 3. And so I think that, like, that I've seen you bring to bear, and like calm a situation, and like quick. You'll walk into a conference room, and there'll be tension, and you'll just speak a couple of words, and it calms everything down. And then you just start talking, and everybody just starts listening, and they trust what you're saying. And you like lead people towards the water. You go, this is the way. Come on, let's go. And you don't use any of the other 2 archetypes to get us there. But that's an incredible leadership quality you have. The last one I'm going to hold back a little bit.
All right.
I don't want to tell you.
Uh-oh.
I'm not going to tell you the last one because I'm still watching it.
Figuring it out.
I'm still figuring it out.
Well, I'll bring that one.
Come on.
What I think is the 4th one is private Karen, that you don't see very often, that likes to go to movies and likes to go running to get peace and, be with her family, stuff like that, which is a totally different Karen that most people don't see. Even people at work probably don't see it very often, if they do ever. But what I was going to say too about the scary part, one of the scariest things, and I think that this is the reason that other attorneys are afraid sometimes, is that you make a decision and you stick with it.
Yeah.
You know that you're right when you've made the choice. You and then you don't back off, which some people will make that choice and then be like, waffling back and forth. Did I do the right one? I don't think you do that.
Yeah.
At least not that I've seen.
Well, when we're talking about the decision that needs to be stuck with, because I will change my mind.
But that's different.
Yeah. So what I feel like is I don't ever make a threat. I don't like threats.
No.
I think that they're punk moves. I think threats are just silly. And a lot of lawyers make a lot of threats. I just believe like this is the way it's going to be. And if you do this, then this is what's going to happen. And I think I've done it enough that people understand that that's true. So then it helps them make an informed decision about what they want to do next. Because I'm not just making a threat that I may or may not follow through
No,
on.
you're going to follow through.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, so the fourth one, Mike kind of sort of touched on it, so I think I can talk about it. It's what it is that it's because like over the past year and some months that we've gotten to know each other, I've gotten to know you as a friend. And there is like this private aspect to Karen, but there's a playfulness that is my favorite archetype. Because when you are in what I call in the sandbox with Karen, and you know, when we're in the sandbox and we're just playing with our toys and playing with our sandbox, it's I got to tell you, my time like almost stands still for me, and it's just such a pleasurable place to be in. And sometimes when we're working, we're in that space, and I could care about nothing else. And I just want to be there and just keep going.
Isn't this true for all of us that one of the most fun things that we can do is have fun?
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, that's why we like doing this.
Yeah.
You even like it.
Yeah.
It's very fun. I mean, first of all, we get to know each other really well, but it's also pretty fun and funny. And, you know, I'm not motivated by a lot of things that other people are motivated by. I'm motivated to work because I like it. And I like it because, of course, you know, you can talk about all the higher principles, you know, you help people get justice and all that. But I also like it because it brings me a lot of joy.
That's right.
And
That's right.
And yeah, I mean, especially when we're kicking someone's ass. Again, the reason why it feels so good is because they deserve it.
Yeah.
And when you're just watching them like choking, and you're just thinking you're not being gloaty because you want that lawyer to suffer, but you're looking at what that lawyer is doing, which is trying to destroy your client.
Yeah.
For what? For an insurance company? Like, gross.
Yeah. 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 But you're also playful and fun and kind of.
Thank you.
You know, so that's just, I think that's my favorite archetype.
Yeah.
Even though I like the other ones, that's my favorite one.
So okay, Mike, what's your favorite one?
Of you?
Of you?
Of me.
Yeah, yeah, Mike. What are your archetypes?
Oh, my favorite one is artistic, Mike.
Musical.
Because that's when everything's clicking, when I'm playing music, whether it's alone or with other people, and it's usually more when it's with other people, that's when everything melts away except for the music and the interaction between you and the audience and the other musicians. And the weight of the world is gone. And you fly. That's why I like making music so much. And I think people get that with I'm sure that you, Mo, get that with poetry.
Yes.
I think that you get that with work. When that stuff happens, that's the favorite. And I mean, I think that becoming more of who we are, realizing our archetypes, for me, it's a constant conversation in my head. You know, everybody, or most of the people I know, have a monologue that's running in their head. But I got a team, and they argue. And some of them try to be in charge, and some of them don't want to be in charge because, like Little Mo, might not want to, you know, might sort of be timid to the other Savage Mo,
Yeah.
Ruthless Mo.
Yeah.
But you can't let Ruthless Mo run the whole thing because then you'd be a psychopath.
I know. Yes.
But I think finding the balance in between all the archetypes and having them work together at once is when you become a person. And it takes a long time. Some people, maybe that happens earlier, but most of the people that I know still aren't there yet. And, I'm at least a couple, 3/4 of the way through my life, I think. So, but it takes a long time. And I think a lot of people don't ever get there because they don't even realize the archetypes or don't want to admit them.
Yeah.
What about you?
My favorite one is, that's hard. I think Wise Mo. He is maturing more as I get older, and I'm realizing that he is going to be the next step in my personal and professional evolution. That he leading the charge of the other Mo's. That's the one I'm focused on right now. What about you?
Well, first of all, I really love being a grandma, but that's not, and that's granny personality. But for me, when everything is clicking for me, and it can be a variety. It can be when I'm in the zone writing, like when I write a settlement demand, or when I write when I'm just writing, when I'm certainly in trial. And I just love it so much. There's something about, and it's the way that I process, which is, I prepare, obviously I prepare a lot, but then I don't orchestrate how it's released. Yeah. I really trust myself. I trust my brain to know it. I trust myself. And when I'm in the zone like that, it feels like other world. When it comes out, it's very much similar to music. Yeah. It's just coming out, and it's just the way it's meant to be. And there might be a couple little boo-boos, but you don't even care.
But it feels so good, it doesn't matter.
And it's coming out, and it's everything combining. It's not just creativity, it's everything that combines and then comes out, and it's just like a flower.
By the way, I think that's
good. That's a good description.
Karen.
Yeah,
I mean, when I read your writing, it is almost like playful and musical. So
yeah,
especially when you're writing like after or during trials, when you write what's happened every day. Like, I mean, that's so fun sometimes.
There's a lot of
even
joy
when
in
it's mad or even when it's frustrated, you still approach it with a lightheartedness that makes it really fun to read.
Oh, thanks, guys. Yes. Well, that was an interesting conversation about all of our stuff. Yeah.
I agree.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right.
Well, that's all for today.
Until next time.